Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyasol. Tonight, United States agrees to help Nigeria recover stolen funds. The president says there are no sacred cows in his anti-corruption battle, also gives assurances on the return of the Chibok girls. The World Bank to spend $2.1 billion on rehabilitating internally displaced people in the northeast. And funeral holds for 32 activists killed in Turkey blast.
On business news tonight, equities in Nigeria's stock market respond positively to President Buhari's U.S. visit as the exchange posts 1% gain after previous losses.
And on sports news, Super Eagles defender Kenneth Romero seals loan move to Turkish club Kasımpaşa.
It's day 2 of President Muhammadu Buhari's visit, and results are already emerging from the meeting being held with different groups in the United States. At a meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. John Kerry, it was agreed that the U.S. will support Nigeria in surmounting the economic development and security challenges it's currently faced with. On Monday, President Buhari was hosted to a dinner by the United States Chamber of Commerce, where the president gave the business community the assurance of his commitment to fighting Boko Haram and providing a stable environment for investors.
Twice, the U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. John Kerry, visited Nigeria, first to confer with President Muhammadu Buhari as a presidential candidate, and later to witness his inauguration after his victory at the polls. Today, he is host, and the meeting was fruitful.
I am very honored to welcome somebody who's become a friend, the President of Nigeria, President Buhari. Nigeria is an extraordinarily important country, and we have very, very important interests together. We have pledged with the President's meeting yesterday to work very closely on economic development, on the economy, on counterterrorism, on regional issues, but very importantly also to join together in an effort to do a better job of taking on Boko Haram.
Nigerians will remain very grateful to the United States, to the President, and to the Secretary of State.
Many of you know praised your peaceful transition of your country.
Before coming to see Mr. Kerry, President Buhari on Monday night at a dinner hosted by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce gave his words on creating an enabling environment in Nigeria for American businesses to thrive.
Ladies and gentlemen, the kind of environment I envisage can only thrive under a secure and stable environment. As such, I am giving full attention to the fight against Boko Haram insurgency in collaboration with Nigeria's immediate neighbors. To this end, Nigeria has pledged $100 million United States dollars to the multinational joint task force of the Lake Chad Basin Commission to provide the requisite resources for the task force to effectively function. Last month, Nigeria released the sum of $21 million United States dollars of this pledge and stand ready to liquidate its pledge once the task force fully becomes operational. Nigeria recognizes and thanks the United States government for their contribution of $5 million to this campaign. Every little bit helps in this all-important fight against terrorism. This is aimed at ensuring the protection and preservation of every inch of Nigeria's territory, facilitates the return and resettlement of displaced persons, and providing the atmosphere for resumption of normal life.
As President Muhammadu Buhari continues his consultations in the United States, one area in which the United States could offer assistance is by offering intelligence to help the Nigerian effort in fighting the insurgents, as well as support the communities hurt by the activities of Boko Haram.
In the meantime, President Buhari has again made it clear that the safety and return of the Chibok girls is a priority to his government. Answering questions on the CNN program Amampur, President Buhari also promised to tackle corruption, making it clear that there should be no sacred cows. The president is also optimistic that his American counterpart will visit Nigeria in the near future. President Buhari began by explaining what transpired at his meeting with President Barack Obama.
Brought our requirements in terms of training, equipping, and intelligence gathering for Nigeria to be able to fight Boko Haram.
And you mentioned the economy and the falling in oil prices over the last many months. How are you going to deal with that? Because that is really what your people want.
My people, firstly, I believe they want the security in the country to be stabilized so that normal life, both in the southern part of the country where the militants are still sabotaging oil installations and kidnapping people and demanding ransom. And in the northeast of the country, where Boko Haram is still active, this is the main preoccupation of Nigerians now, and is a realistic way of looking at things. Nothing will work until the country is secured.
What about the girls, the famous Chibok girls, the 200 or so who were abducted so long ago? Yet again, there's been a suggestion that the Boko Haram captors may trade them, may seek to trade them for incarcerated inmates who they want to get out. Is your government willing to trade those girls in that regard?
We have to be very careful about the credibility of various Boko Haram leaderships coming up and claiming that they can deliver. We have to be very careful indeed, and this is why we are taking our time, because we want to bring them safe back to their parents and to their school.
So are you in principle against, or would you consider negotiating with Boko Haram if you can verify the credibility of those who approach you?
I cannot be against it. I told you our main objective as a government is to secure those girls safe and sound back to their schools and rehabilitate them to go back to normal life. So if we are convinced that the leadership that presented itself can deliver those girls safe and sound, we will be prepared to negotiate what they want.
Let me ask you, because, look, you came to power on a platform that you would do better than the previous president in all regards, security, corruption, economy, etc. But there have been hundreds of people killed since you've become president. How can you do any better?
I think I can be held to my promises for the next 3 3/4 years ahead of me. And I think 12 weeks or so is too early for anybody to pass judgment on my campaign promises.
What about your campaign promise to root out corruption? If they turned out that some of the guilty ones were members of your own party or your own associates, would you crack down on them too?
I just have to. There isn't going to be any party member or any personality that can escape justice.
Mr. President, are you disappointed that President Obama is yet again not going to Nigeria, the biggest and most economically powerful country in Africa?
I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but how I wished he will change his mind and go to Nigeria.
Did you ask him? Did he say he would?
Well, I asked him I will send a formal invitation.
In a few weeks from now, the World Bank will be spending $2.1 billion in rebuilding the Northeast. The World Bank says the package is expected to be used to rebuild the badly devastated northeastern part of Nigeria, ravaged for the past 6 years by the Boko Haram insurgency. At a meeting in Washington today with representatives of the World Bank, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the World Health Organization, President Buhari said apart from rebuilding the region in terms of infrastructure, priority must also be given to the resettlement of internally displaced persons who now number over 1 million. The World Bank says it's eager to move in quickly, give out the loans and give succor to the people of the Northeast, long at the mercy of an insurgency that's claimed over 20,000 lives. $300 million is to be invested on immunization against malaria in Nigeria, while the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation will collaborate with Dangote Foundation to ensure that the country remains its zero polio case record of the past year. If the effort is sustained for another 2 years, Nigeria will be declared polio-free. And in part two, after the break, more on the President's visit to the United States. I'll be joined in the studio by a former ambassador to Zambia and Malawi, Folake Marcus Bello. That's in a moment. You join us again.